So we are reading Far Journeys by Robert Monroe. We are on chapter 4, page number 37 of the book and page number 24 of the PDF.
Chapter 4 Explorer Team. Amid the diversion of gateway sessions, visitors ranging from psychologists and electronics engineers to ex flower children with backpacks mail response to the original journeys, we continued our research program with our volunteer group in the laboratory. The group became consistently more proficient in achieving other forms of consciousness, including the out of body state. However, personal events in their lives, such as moving to another city, brought the regular weekly group down to six. These were the physicist, electronics engineer, social services executive, transpersonal psychologist, office manager, and psychiatric counselor. I would have liked to use actual names, but several felt their employers would take a dim view of it all. Therefore, no names at all.
So, Shimangla, your mic you need to adjust. Now, even at that time, people would not take nicely to out of body explorations and these kinds of things. And if your name was associated with it, it put a stigma on you. Okay. That stigma still exists. People who attend these programs are called little crazy till now. Okay. So you can imagine what was happening in the 1980s and things.
One of the most peculiar aspects was that their experiences paralleled my own only in the preliminary stages. They could and did replicate my own near out of body experiences, but from that point on, there seemed little similarity. Possibly because of the confidence factor of a monitor with whom to communicate. In some respects, they had freedoms that I had never experienced.
So now when Robert Monroe started his experiences, he really had no reference point. He had no information about what was happening to him. It spontaneously started happening to him. Right. Now this is where the importance of the guru starts coming in, where the guru actually guides you and monitors your progress. Now, these people, these explorers, naturally had Robert Monroe to guide them. So their ability to move out and their confidence in the system was definitely higher than what Robert Monroe himself had. This is another reason why many people can buy the Wave series of the Gateway Voyage, right? But let me tell you, each and every one who has bought the Gateway Voyage series and heard it and done it in their own house, and then they have come and experienced the Gateway Voyage in a program, always say there is Jameen Asman ka farak. There is no comparison between the experience that they have at the workshop compared to just hearing the tracks themselves. The reason is the guidance factor, the group energy. All those factors start to play a part. Now, these explorers also knew that there are others who are working with this thing, and they regularly must have been meeting up also, and the exchange of ideas must have been taking place. So, naturally, that created a lot of confidence in these people to have these extraordinary experiences that they were having.
So, Nikhil,
Yeah.
he speaks of some freedom. What freedom would that be?
So that is the thing, na. In some respects, they had the freedom I had never experienced because they were free. Now, today, Robert Monroe spontaneously started having these experiences, right? So he had no guidance. But these people, if they experience something, they could come back and discuss with someone. Are you getting that? So they
Yeah,
had the
okay.
freedom to explore. Plus, the monitor was always there. Now they were in the booth, but they were
Mhm.
connected to the monitor, so they could call out for help if they wanted. Right? If they were having an issue, they could call out to the monitor, who was Robert Monroe himself, to come and help them out. So naturally, when you have support, when you know that I have the
Okay.
backing, I have more freedom than if there's a fear factor, right?
Yeah, right,
There's a
right.
fear of the unknown. But if
Okay.
there's a person who can guide you, then that fear of unknown gets
Yeah.
eliminated.
Oh,
One of the most peculiar aspects was that their experiences paralleled my own only in the preliminary stages. They could and did replicate my own near outer body experiences, but from the point on, seemed little similarity, possibly because of the confidence factor of a monitor with whom to communicate. In some respects, they had freedom that I had never experienced. So that the picture is clear, the subject lies on a waterbed in a darkened, acoustically and electrically shielded 8 by 10 room, usually booth 2, everyone's favorite for some unknown reason. The booth has its own air conditioning and heating controls. Electrodes for monitoring physiological states are glued to head, fingers, and body. A sound microphone hangs about 4 inches above the face. Audio headphones completely cover each ear. Most important, the subject has just gone to the bathroom to be sure the bladder is empty. Too many sessions had been aborted because the subject reported a problem in the physical body, only to find upon a hurried return that it was nothing more than a distended bladder. Evidently, the total physical relaxation encourages this body process.
So, what was happening? They were in a booth which was totally dark, electronically shielded. What does that mean? There's no electronical interference. So it's like the Faraday's cage. So there was this guy called Faraday who wanted to do certain experiments, and then what he did was, and he did not want electrical interference, so he created a copper mesh room and he electrified it so that no other electrical influence could come in. So these booths were electronically, or they were copper shielded. Okay. So no electronic interference could be there. The waterbed is maintained at the body temperature, and waterbed is like, floating. So you get a floaty feeling. There's no thing that, you are singing in that. So it's constantly floating and you get a floaty feeling. It's at body temperature. So you're very, very comfortable. Your ears are covered with headphones. So when your ears are covered, there is no sound interference apart from the sound that you're hearing in the headphone. It's totally dark. So all sensory, to the maximum possible, sensory input has been cut off. And then they go into these explorations. They also have a mic with which they can communicate with the monitor. Now, those who have attended the excursion workshop, I'm sure they will all agree that you never go to the toilet as much as you go when you're doing the excursion or the gateway voyage. Okay. Now, what is the reason over here? He very clearly says it, that because the body totally relaxes, the toxin elimination system of the body takes, yeah, I have a chance now to work properly, so your bladder gets full. So this is a statement that we make in all workshops, that we want you to have an out of body experience, we don't want you to have an out of bladder experience. Now if your bladder is full, your attention is going to be in the bladder and you will not be connected with the exercise. So over here he says that too many sessions had been aborted because the subject reported a problem in the physical body. Now, in that expanded state, you realize that there is an issue with your body. You may not or may know what that issue is. Suppose you are very uncomfortable, then it will register as a discomfort in the body. You may not know what that discomfort is. And many times people's bladder gets filled up, so the experience gets cut short. So everyone needs to visit the restroom before every exercise. Okay, I'm sure there are many people here who will agree to this, that you never go to the toilet as many times as you go in the excursion.
Yeah, yeah.
totally. And you feel more hungry also, Niket.
Yeah.
In the control room, 20 feet down the hall, a human monitor, I, or one of the several others, sorry, communicates vocally through a sound system with the person in the booth. The monitor also feeds hemisync sound into the subject's headphones, either to test responses to new frequencies or to aid the subject in achieving desired states of consciousness. Finally, the monitor observes and notes changes in instrument readouts on the subject's physiological condition. Often, an assistant is present to help in the processing.
So, what is happening? All the data which is coming from the person concerned is fed into various instrumentation, right? And the monitor is actually monitoring what is the state of consciousness of the person concerned and can guide you into a certain state. Now, when they are monitoring, a experienced monitor can actually, by the readouts, totally understand what state of consciousness you are in. Whether you are an out of body experience, whether you've gone to sleep, you're in a deep meditation, you're having a profound experience, the monitors will start to show it. So, it's an experienced monitor can really enhance the experience for you in a very, very dramatic manner, because they know what to tell you and when to tell you so that your experience gets enhanced. And naturally, this system was used to test new frequencies with experienced explorers to ask them, okay, what are you experiencing now when this frequency is being played? And if most of the explorers were having the same subjective and objective experience, then that is how the tagging started taking place. That, okay, this will take you to this state, this will take you to this state, this mix of frequency will take you to this state. And that's how the later programs actually, or in fact, even the Gateway Voyage has been adjusted and developed over a long period of time. Over here, when he's talking, it was a very small program. Then it started to get expanded.
Here is a typical entry report, the beginning of an OOBE, transcribed from an early file recording during an experiment. Office manager, 7 minutes in. I am going rapidly now through a tunnel. I was standing straight up, and now I am just sort of sucked up through this tunnel. It is very narrow, and I am rapidly shooting through this tunnel. Now I can see a point of light at the other end. I am traveling rapidly to this point of light. It is like I am on some type of light beam that is helping to propel me. I am coming out. I am going into a different dimension, and I have just completely slowed down. And I am right at the opening of this point. And now I am gently coming through, and everything is green. It is so bright that it is almost blinding because of coming out of a dark tunnel. It is a different feeling. Now it is a strange, real strong energy that seems to be pressing against me. It is a great feeling now. This is a new energy level. I feel a strong, everything around me is green. It is so bright that it is taking me a minute to adjust and to absorb where I am.
So many people, when they are going into these expanded states or into these experiences in these expanded states, can visualize a tunnel. Many NDEers, that means people who've had near-death experiences, also experience these tunnels. These tunnels are like wormholes. They take you from one dimension to the other. The other thing is doorways. When a doorway appears, it's taking you from one zone into another zone. Okay. And also staircases when they appear. Many times when we are going into these states and we are shifting states, we can observe a tunnel, a doorway, or a staircase. So in this case, he was zooming through a tunnel.
There was one small problem. Once our subjects passed through the light or achieved the out of body state, they were not particularly interested in hour after hour of dull searching for new effective sound frequency patterns. They would still perform the tasks, but beyond the tunnel and into the light was Paris. Keeping them on the farm was certainly no trivial problem, so we had to play a little.
So now what happened? Anything that you are doing over and over and over and over again, the brain will decide this is no longer important. So you start getting bored. So unless variety is brought into the experimentation, it was not possible to hold them just to listen to frequencies. Okay, what's happening? What's happening? So they started playing around a little bit.
And play we did. We sent our subjects to explore the moon, which they found a very dull place. We went to other parts of the solar system, the other planets, and found them, as far as we could determine, nothing but mile after mile of craters and mountains, or simply layers of turbulent matter. No vegetation, no sign of life, nothing to truly attract our human attention. We did find that in such a state as the OOBE, a different kind of consciousness seemed to exist. The overview of the subject was different. For example, what to us in the control room was a minute could become hours or timeless to the volunteer in the booth. It was at this point that we began to call them our explorer team.
So it's like that movie, Shimangla, your mic. So it's like that movie, Inception, where when you're going into a deeper and a deeper and a deeper state, the time taken at one level, if it's 1 minute, in the next level, it is like 2 hours. In the next level, it's like 2 weeks. In the next level, it's like 2 months. In the next level, it's like 6 months. Okay. So as we are going into an expanded state of consciousness, the concept of time and space starts getting very, very squeezed. So what may, even in the Hindu culture, we have that Brahma ji ka ek palak jhapakna is like 1,000 years over here, or some figure they give. Okay. So one blink in the eye, in the timeline of Brahma ji, is like 1,000 years in our time space. So over here, the same thing is happening, that 1 minute in the monitor's monitor could seem like an eternity in the experience of the explorer. And this happens regularly. We ask this question of people who have attended the excursion workshop also. Many times they will say that, I felt the exercise finished too fast. It was only 5. Another person says it was like 3 hours long, and the exercise is the same. So the concept of time starts to get squeezed in these expanded states.
Like most humans, we were possessed with the idea or hope that there had to be intelligent life somewhere among the billions of stars that we could perceive physically. So, in our play, we took to sending our explorers out beyond the solar system at what appeared a near instantaneous change of locale. The instruction was to keep going until he or she perceived something worthwhile. They passed by the other suns, found other planets, but no intelligent life. It seemed to us a sterile universe.
So now, in this expanded state, wherever you focus your attention to, there you will be. It's like that. It's literally instantaneous. And people who've experienced the Lifeline program have actually experienced this. When you want to locate someone, you just look at the ID of that person or the name of that person, and boom, you will be connected with that particular person. Because in these expanded states, again, time and space get squeezed. So there's nothing which is stopping you when we are going into these states.
The change came in 1974. It took place in all of our explorers within several weeks. Some had never met one another, so there was no cross communication. In looking back to examine the reason for this massive change, the only thing that we could find was we had inserted the affirmation developed for the Gateway program at the beginning of each experimental session in the lab. Other than that, we made no significant changes in hemisync frequencies, basic environment, or methods of presentation. It may have been the second part that was the catalyst.
So people who've done the excursion workshop know about the affirmation, right? The affirmation is has got four parts. One is a declaration, setting of intent, asking for help with a feeling of gratitude, right? Now, when we are going into these expanded states, asking for help becomes very important, because otherwise they stay away from you. They are infinitely compassionate beings over there, right? They're not going to interfere with your experience unless you want them to interfere. So asking for help becomes very, very important. And that is what this next paragraph that Shimangla is going to read inserted, the asking for help concept. And that's when the magic started to happen. So up to now, we these explorers have not experienced any intelligent being or any intelligent, uh, entity till now. Okay.
Also, I deeply desire the help and cooperation, the assistance, the understanding of those individuals whose wisdom, development, and experience are equal to or greater than my own. I ask their guidance and protection from any influence or any source that might provide me with less than my stated desires.
So this is very important, right? I want to engage with people who know more than me. So I can ask for help from someone who has more than me or knows more than me, not from someone who knows less than me about a particular subject. So very clearly we are setting an intent here that I want to ask for help from those who know more than me.
It was suddenly as if a curtain had been lifted. Almost every time one of our explorers went into the outer body state, or simply into an advanced focused well, they encountered intelligent beings who were more or less willing to communicate and could do so. After several years of finding only barrenness, the effect upon us was overwhelming. We sometimes had difficulty knowing how to handle it. Here is a portion of the transcript from the file recording of one of these early meetings.
So just imagine you're on a barren island and there is no one there, and for years you're looking for people and you can't find anyone. And suddenly people start appearing and things start appearing in front of you. You're going to get the shock of your life. So that's what happened to them also.
Back into regular 12, had two encounters. The first with an unseen intelligence who replied to a general query for communications, sort of an "I'll talk to you." But it was obvious that he, I guess I say he because I got the feeling of a he, wanted to listen and said, "Okay, what do you want to talk about?" And as I tried to put the burden on him or it for some information about itself, about its environment, I got the feeling it was angry for being bothered. Sort of like bumping into a busy New York pedestrian. The second was much more interesting. The second communication, I didn't just get an intelligence but got a complete visual image. Female, late 30s, and she was very pleased to communicate and offered to show me around and showed me a lot of the facility. I don't know what else to call it, what she was in, that she was in. We walked up to this wall, and two big doors swung open, and there was nothing there that seemed impressive at all. But she thought that these markings and irregularities of the surface were quite something. I don't know why. I didn't relate to it at all. I asked her if she was in any way familiar with physical matter existence as I knew it, and she asked me to explain. I really didn't know how to explain physical matter. So I asked if it was all right if I came back and that I wanted to leave to report in. She seemed a little dismayed that I was taking off after getting part way through the tour. But she said, all right, and that brings us up to the present moment.
So when we are going into these states, the realities that we experience in these states can be very different from the normal 3D reality that we normally experience, right? So naturally, you have to be open to exploration. You have to be open to seeing what is something very different. Now, let us say someone who was living in Greenland all the time or in Iceland and all the time in ice, suddenly they get transported to the Sahara Desert. What's going to happen to them? Okay, so in the same way, this altered reality that you're visiting is very different from the reality that we have over here, and the rules and regulations are also different many times, right? So naturally you have to be open to that particular exploration.
Monitor. Very good. In your return, try and understand the type of energy being utilized there. Time lapse 3 minutes. Okay. I thought I had better report back again before I forgot much of what went on. Re-establish contact with same female. She was quite surprised that I did return. Pleased. At first, I began to wonder what this intelligence really looked like to itself. Was I just imposing my own image of female humanoid form? And we discussed this, realizing that I was creating this image of her and could not really tell whether this was her own image of herself or not. She likewise was creating an image of me in a likeness to which she was familiar, and whether or not these likenesses were similar, mine and hers. There was no way to tell, so we left that question.
One second. So now there's a saying written on my board over here. We do not see things as they are, but as we are. Okay, so automatically our perception is automatically screened towards what we think is real. It may not actually be real, and it's a given fact that what we are seeing with our eyes is not what we are actually seeing. A lot of the image that we actually see visually is created by the brain using similar experiences that we have had in the past. So that's why if the same environment or the same room will be perceived totally differently by every person who sees it. The shade will be different, the texture will be different, the shape will be different depending on how you are perceiving it. A easy example will be a person who's colorblind. Okay, now you normal, what we call so-called normal people will view green as green, but to the colorblind person who can't see green, it will seem as black or it will seem as some other color, right? So again, we are limited by our perception. So we put a form on a person to make it comfortable for us.
Then I got an itch of some intensity that began on my neck and tried to explain that I existed in another reality besides the one I was sharing with her, and that I had a physical body elsewhere, and that the physical body had an itch on its neck and was disturbing the focus of my attention. And that is why I seemed to be fading in and out as my attention wavered.
So
She seemed to believe she
this is
believed me at all.
1 second. So this is another issue, right? When we are going into these expanded states, there's something called phasing which starts to happen. We go there and come back. We go there and come back. This phasing is something very normal to be experienced in the workshops also, right? So keeping our attention there is something that you need to learn to practice to be able to actually hold your attention in that expanded state.
She seemed to think that was quite incredible. I don't
Bhaiya,
believe
you
she
mean
believed.
sorry,
One second. हाँ बोलिए.
I just wanted to ask you about that phasing that you were saying. That
Hmm.
that means you keep going in and coming out, going in and coming out.
See, this is
Does it
something
happen
that you need to experience. So I'm waiting for you to do the excursion workshop.
I'm also waiting to do it.
Vicky, that
Okay,
happens a
but-
lot to me. This going in and coming out.
Yeah, it happens.
okay.
Next workshop is on 27th of March.
Okay, Bhaiya.
She seemed to think that this was quite incredible. I don't believe she believed me at all. She just kind of ignored that statement like one might ignore somebody who says an irrational thing. I asked about her physics. She took me to another place where there was another entity, this one male, and there was a writing surface much like a blackboard, but not a blackboard. Whereupon he attempted to explain the nature of things there. We had no success at all with his writing. The marks he made on this surface, this blackboard, were totally unintelligible to me, and after a few efforts, we gave up.
Okay. So now, this is something that we again tell in the workshops, that when we go into these expanded states, we have to develop a language of our own. The way that we are communicating here in English or in Hindi or in Urdu or whatever, it doesn't work over there, right? So you need to develop your own language for you to be able to comprehend and understand what they are communicating.
We tried to go to pictures. All the time we could communicate telepathically. Pictures were okay. He drew some pictures, and from the telepathic exchange, I felt that their science, indeed their concept of their existence and reality, was in many ways similar to our own, in that they were fixed in that reality and could not travel out of it, as I had traveled out of physical reality into theirs.
So a lot of non-verbal communication takes place in these expanded states, right? So telepathic communication, a sense of knowing, okay, just having to experience something and getting to know what it is all about. So a lot of this kind of communication happens over there.
I do not know whether they even believed that there was another reality other than their own. They had a physical science much as we do, in that objects in their reality obeyed specific laws. I tried to see if any of their laws were similar to ours, such as gravitation. It was very difficult to tell. I could not separate what was their concept of their reality. All I could do was translate into my own concepts, meaning I did not see them floating around in air, but whether that was because they experience a thing like gravity, like we do, or whether that was a function of my own experience, visualizing humanoids not floating in the air. I could not tell.
So again, as I said, we impose our concept on anything that we perceive. Okay. So we really don't see things as they are. We are constantly adjusting what we are perceiving to match our concept of what is.
But I did feel that they had a basic physical science that ruled the objects of their reality. They did not move things around by thought processes or anything like that. It seemed like an earth type physical reality to them, although don't recognize many of their devices and structures. Seemed very foreign, but they seemed to be fixed and isolated within those devices and structures. Somehow, I appear to them as one of their own kind. Whether that's humanoid or not, I don't know. Maybe I should have tried to find out where they think I came from, or who they think I might be.
So it's very difficult to actually understand what another person is perceiving, right? So whether they were seeing him as humanoid or not, it's very, very difficult to really get it.
Here is another to give you a feeling for a different point of contact. Social services executive, I am talking with my green man and practicing going up and down to where they are, and found out why he has this green robe. He said that he did not need it, but that I needed it to make me more comfortable with him. And he said that I still have some fears, so he still wants me to feel more comfortable with going in and out of my body. I want to sit and talk with him some more. He just kind of sat down and talked about me and where I am. And he told me that he is a kind of my overseer and he is responsible, somewhat responsible for my growth and development. Overseer in that contact and responsibility. Apparently, he has been through a lot of lives and different lifetimes, and I don't know if they are a part of him or not.
So all of us have guides who are guiding us, who are looking after us, who are supporting us, who are seeing whether we are on the correct life path or not, right? So when we open ourselves up to this communication, to be able to actually communicate with these guides, a lot of different stuff can start happening. Okay, so you can get into the flow, you start understanding what is happening. So this is what was happening. And then he says that he said that he did not need it, but that I needed to make me more comfortable with him. So many times they will take on a form with which we are comfortable. There was a scene in this movie Contact where she goes into that bubble and she comes out and she sees her father, and then when they are conversing, she asks him that, is this your real form? So the that entity says that no, but we knew that you will be more comfortable with this form. That is why we have taken this form to communicate with you. So many times when we are going into these expanded states, the entities or the higher intelligence beings over there will take a form which will make us comfortable.
I feel very comfortable here, like this is where I belong, and I have felt like this before. Think I made some progress because this time I did not need any folks to help me. I was just there seeing them, more like a vote of confidence than anything else. I asked him what he was doing here, and he said, here, that is something that you are trying to pinpoint. Here isn't. Here does not matter. I don't know why, but I really feel very tired. I feel like I am ready to come back all of a sudden. I noticed it before that it was like a flash, but it was dark in here. There was a surprise because it was just like a flash of light that came on.
So So again, time and space get squeezed. So when you are talking of here, where is here? Okay. Now let us say someone is floating in outer space. Now that outer space, the point where he is, where is that? It's very difficult to define. So when we are going into these expanded states, at times it becomes very difficult to really define where you are. But then when you start mapping the expanded states, that okay, if I intend it here, I go here. If I intend there, I go there. So you can literally create a mosaic. You can create a mind. I won't say mind map. You can make a map of your altered reality. This is something that we did in the shamanism program also, where we were told to map our explorations as to which level of consciousness were you going to, where were you going, where did you meet someone, and then make a drawing of it, so that it becomes a process, or again it's a map, to be able to map where you want to go. It's like the early explorers of the world also, they really did not have a map. So they were making a map, and then they were constantly rectifying it till they really came to understand that, okay, this is the map. So in the same way, you can map your consciousness explorations.
Far more significant were the instances where our explorers quickly made friends with beings, entities who seemed to have no special interest in or connection to with our explorer. Here is a sample of an explorer response to one of these.
So you can, when you start when you start identifying these beings, okay, these entities in these expanded states, you can regularly go and communicate with them, right? And that is where the guides and masters also come. When you call out to them, either they will come to you or you will be transported to them, and that connection will be made. So you can make a lot of friends over there. In shamanism, you constantly have helping spirits. They call it helping spirits, where you have the helping spirits of the upper world and the power animals of the lower world. I call them my power friends or my animal friends, but they are normally called power animals. Okay. So when you want help, you can call out to them and they can give you support and help in whatever activity that you're doing.
Electronics engineer recontacted the source and asked the source about his pointers and perspective and asked him if he was familiar with the earth, and his reply was yes, that is my territory. I got the idea that the earth was sort of his assigned beat. I also got the idea that he and other entities are made available to us to help us maximize or get through our earth experience. I don't mean get through, like get it over with. I mean to help us get as much out of it as possible. They are there like explainers or helpers and not particularly assigned to earth duty. I then asked about geological conditions in the next 10 years. He picked data up from my mind and knew that I was thinking about and said, I didn't know that information was available. He was surprised that this information was given out or had been released. He was not aware that such information was being released.
So now again, these spirit helpers, these guides, they are here to help us to have the best possible experience that we can. Because when we come here, we have a life plan. And due to the factor of free will, many times we go screen off the life plan. So if we are open to it, if we start becoming aware, they are there to help us, to guide us back to our life plan so that we can achieve what we have come here to achieve or even exceed what we have come here to achieve. Now, when we go into these higher states of consciousness, especially in Focus 27, we encounter something called the planning center, where all the plans are made, all the innovations are created, and once it is created there, then that information is planted over here. So you will find that if someone is developing something, you will find that only that fellow is not developing it. That development will be happening in many places in the world simultaneously. Why? Because that information is downloaded into the consciousness of various people at the same time. So over here he's clearly saying that some of the information is restricted and some of the information is passed on to people because people are ready for that information. Now, many times we are not ready for the information. So naturally, we will not be able to perceive or comprehend that information also. Now, he was surprised over here that that information which he picked up from the explorer's mind was actually available to the explorer.
Another type occurred in this fashion. Psychiatric counselor. Point of light. Other than that, I don't perceive anything. Monitor. How does the light feel? It feels like a star. When I focus on it, I begin to float. Monitor. Experiment with the light. Now they are getting closer. Now I am getting closer to them.
So now this is the import. So this is the importance of the monitor. So when the explorer is going into the exploration and finding something or has nothing to do, the monitor can help the explorer to have a experience, because the monitor can uh, uh, guide the explorer into another experience.
New voice. How are you? Monitor. I am very glad to meet you. I am very thankful that you came.
So now what has happened over here? An entity is using the voice box of the explorer to communicate with the monitor.
Sorry, I don't know how it's gone. 1 second. Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah. How are you? I am very glad to meet you. I am very thankful that you came. New voice. It is hard to get here. Monitor. What is the difficulty? There are many layers to penetrate. Monitor. We are very, very grateful that you did penetrate the layers to us. We will help in any way that we can. New voice. Her color pattern is very good. We must find a way to help her let go.
So over here now, okay, there is something called the M band, and there are many magnetic fields also. So many times certain entities may have a problem in penetrating that and coming to us. We also send out a wave ourselves, so we can create a field ourselves so that we cannot be penetrated. So here the entity is saying that it was difficult to come here. And then he says that the color pattern is very good. So this is like the aura, okay, the radiation that we are radiating, and that radiation can tell the entity what we are capable of and what we are not capable of. So when we see a aura, a lot can be told about the person just by looking at the aura of a person.
Do you have any recommendations? New voice. There needs to be a period in which she goes very deep. Monitor. A longer preliminary period, then would you suggest? New voice. Possibly. It will get easier as the trust builds. There is still a lot of fear. Monitor. I am very grateful for your concern for her. New voice. Wow, she is feeling a lot of disharmony. I have taken her to a place where she can rest.
So now what is happening? The entity is giving directions as to what will be good for the explorer.
In this case, the subject had no memory whatsoever of the event or encounter. The last that she remembered was working with the colors. Changes in voice, quality, and monitoring instruments supported the idea of another presence or personality in the body of she. We had much discussion of the advisability of continuing along this route, in spite of the immense interest and excitement it generated among our group. The fact of the matter is, I suspect, there was at that stage no actual means that we knew of to turn off such communication. I suspect also that no one wanted to anyway, at the least myself.
So, so again, The monitors were there, right? All the monitoring was there. The skin galvanizing response, the heart rate variance, the temperature, the polarity of the skin, the electrical potential. All these things are measured in the booth, right? Now, if there is a shift in the polarity of the, let's say, the electrical polarity, or there's a shift in the heart rate or in the breathing rate, their monitors can actually figure out something is happening. So when an entity comes in, there's definitely a shift in the parameters that are being registered in the instrumentation. And naturally, when something like this is happening, fear always crops up, right? Whether we should do it or whether we should not do it. Ultimately, it's the explorer's mind which takes over, and the thrill of that new experience makes people move forward.
One explorer developed a very close relationship with what appeared to be some 4 or 5 beings, one of whom acted as a spokesman. Here is the transcript of the recording of a major step in that relationship. Office manager was watching what happened and experiencing at the same time. The 4 helpers just helped to lift as this energy body just came to my physical body. The 4 helpers helped to lift my energy body out, and I just felt real light and really, really good. And got the sense then that this energy form that was then sort of implanted or just, in other words, it was in my body then. It was just energizing my body. It was just light and well protected. And I felt good being out and felt very light. Then I could sense that energy of being. One person was just talking about how they could or would like to experiment in trying to use my body sort of like a transmitting set between dimensions. I'll be able to step out and feel very safe and confident with these helpers and light and happy and still be able to observe, if I would like, what's going on with the energy being.
So these entities were actually lifting his energy field out and making him have an out of body experience. And then also discussing whether they could use this body as a method of communication. So things like this can start happening.
But this can get dangerous, right?
I don't think we've lost anyone till now.
Okay.
You're all here, right?
Yeah, yeah. Just to understand. Just to
They
like
did
what I
not.
was meaning to say,
Hmm.
actually I should reframe my this thing, that is there any way by which we can stop these entities by taking a control over our bodies?
See,
Is it what we pray, or the thing that we do? I'm forgetting the word, that you are higher than you're more than the body, and that's what I would like to explore.
No.
Affirmation.
That is a
Yeah.
separate thing altogether. Here, these entities are there. That is your affirmation that I am more than my physical body. Now,
Nobody
over
asking
here,
for help from above, right?
well, one second. Over here, the 4 helpers just helped to lift this energy body, just came to my physical body. The 4 helpers help to lift my energy body out. So in the affirmation, we are very clearly stating that we are more than our physical body. Right?
Yeah.
So this is very clearly indicating that we are more than our physical body, because the physical body will still remain. The energy body is being lifted out. So in the affirmation, you're making a declaration that I am more than my physical body.
Okay.
So that has no connection with this, number one. Number two, whenever your physical body is there, even if you're going out of body, the thing that will ultimately get you back into the body is your bladder.
Yeah, or wriggling
Because
the
the
fingers or
bladder, when the
anything.
bladder fills up, you will automatically come back to the physical body. Because if there's any discomfort to the physical body, which the body cannot tolerate, the energy body which is being taken out will come back. Boom. It's not going to remain out. Right? So
Okay.
up to now, I have not heard of any incident at the Monroe Institute where anyone has got into trouble by this process. And this
Thank
doesn't
you.
happen. This doesn't happen to everyone, bhai. We've conducted so many programs. This has never happened till now. But the point here to understand is that this is a possibility. And whether we want it to happen also, we also have free will here. So if I'm restricting someone from taking me out, it's not easy for that person to take me out. That is one concept over here. Now the other concept is that we did it in the shamanism program, in the 3-year shamanism program, that we are not 100% one entity. There will always be different nuances of us or different characteristics of us, and there is something called multiple personality syndrome, that which is the personality which you are, which is associated or controlling the entity. So this physical body, so whoever has control of 51%, whichever intelligence, that person rules. This was also very clearly seen in Ruth Montgomery's books, where they had actually had, she's done a lot of research on it, where they have had that people totally change their character when another entity enters their system, and the character changes. There's another book which is called the Heart's Code. In that book, they talk about when a person has a heart transplant, the character of the person whose heart is being transplanted into the other body, the body whose in whose body the heart is getting transplanted, starts developing some of the characteristics of the previous owner of the heart. That means some kind of essence of that other person's heart is coming into your system also. So we live in a holographic universe. We don't live in isolation. We are constantly being bombarded by different aspects of different experiences, let's put it that way, or different energies, which is constantly squeezing us. So we constantly have to create a balance.
Thank you.
It's 3:17, Nikedya.
Oh, let's just finish this one.
Okay.
Do they want to perform any experiment now? Okay. The feeling that maybe they would just like to experiment a little bit with talking, maybe through my vocal cords. But I still am not out far enough that I might get out of the way. It will be with practice and experimentation, and then as I learn to be less, I mean be more relaxed and just let it flow and go along and not let my mind stop it. The more they practice, it will be able to flow more rapidly. So they just want to experiment for just a short time with trying to come through with some thoughts through my vocal cords and my mental faculties, so to speak. So we will try to see what happens here.
So again, what are they doing? Till my conscious awareness or the person who is controlling this body doesn't step out of the way, the other entity cannot enter and take control. So they are going to experiment with this.
Monitor. Right. I will be here if you need me. Okay.
Okay, I think this is too long. No, we won't be able to finish today. Chaliye.